Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are discussing now American poetry and the MCQs on that. So the MCQs in this slide cover most of the American poets who are famous in history or in literature. So self-portrait on a convex mirror. So this was a famous book, famous poem, which was written and it got Pulitzer Prize, Pulitzer Award. इतनी मशहूर हुई कि इसको ये वाला इस बेस पे अवार्ड दिया गया. Then Parmigianino was a painter of which era? So he was from Renaissance, जिसको इस poem में self portrait on a convex mirror में जिसको दिखाया गया है. So he was a painter and artist of Renaissance time. John Ashbery, who was the writer of this poem, the poet of this poem, he is American poet. According to Ashbery, which place should be the vacuum of a dream? So he says that room should be the vacuum of a dream. So these are from his famous poems. Where is a painting lying today? So this painting of Parmigianino, so this is now in Vienna. According to narrator, whose argument had begun to grow pale? So related to this painting, he talks about a person in this poem whose arguments begin to grow weaker. So that was Francesco, known as Francesco. What is the narrative style of the poem? So इस poem का narrative style free verse में लिखी गई. Parmigianino was an artist of Italy. So Italian artist था. The structure of the poem is postmodern poem कहलाई गई है. There are 6 stanzas in this poem. The major theme of this poem is self-reflection. एक बंदा अपने आप को देख रहा है और उसके बारे में analysis कर रहा है. In which stanza concentration of poet is broken? So it is in second stanza कि उसकी concentration टूट जाती है. Sylvia is written by John Ashbery. It is also a longer and important poem by Ashbery. Ashbery died in 2017. Those are 17 में. Ashbery through this poem invokes his childhood unhappiness. So Sylvia में वो अपनी childhood unhappiness का जिक्र करता है. From the first line, the poem suggests a dissatisfaction, not only with the past, but with the stories poet tell to make the sense of the past. So यहाँ पे past की dissatisfaction की बात है. Orpheus was mythological singer, जो कि यहाँ पे अपनी wife को ढूंढने आता है इस poem में. So Orpheus was from Greek mythology. He was a singer. Orpheus went to underworld for Eurydice. तो Eurydice को मिलने जाता है, उसे ढूंढने जाता है. Ashbury's poems grapple with the subject of irrecoverable past. So यहाँ पे जो बात की जा रही है basically वो ये है कि past is irrecoverable. You cannot get it back. Once a moment is gone, that is gone forever. Eurydice in the poem vanished into the shade. उसकी जो wife है वो गायब हो जाती है. John Ashbery's first book, Some Trees, won Yale Younger Poets Prize. So जो उसकी पहली बुक थी Some Trees, उसे Yale Younger Poets Prize मिला. Which book is not included in John Ashbery's collection? So बाकी सारी इसकी बुक्स हैं Some Trees, Court Oath, Self Portrait in a Convex Mirror. लेकिन जो इसकी poem नहीं है that is Ariel. Which book is the masterpiece by John Ashbery? So Self Portrait in a Convex Mirror is his masterpiece. One of the major subjects of John Ashbery's poetry is the nature of creative art or creative act. John Ashbery's poetry took shape under the influence of abstract expressionism. So इसके अंदर इसकी पोइट्रीज को कैटेगराइज किया जाता है. Abstract expressionism was a movement in modern American painting, stressing non-representational method of picturing. So it was picturing reality. Reality को non-representational method से picture किया जाता है. Modern art was the first and most powerful influence on John Ashbery. Ashbery's poems are a verbal canvas upon which the poet freely applies the technique of expressionism. तो उसकी जो poems हैं वो verbal canvas है. Which of the following is John Ashbery's writing style? So this is, he is self-reflexive, he is using vague narrative, full of pop culture and high illusion. So he uses all of these. How old was Sylvia Plath when she had her first poem published? Like जब उसकी पहली poem publish हुई थी, so उस time पे उसकी जो age थी, that was 8 years old. 8 साल की थी वो. In several poems, including Lady Lazarus and Daddy, Plath used the Holocaust as a metaphor. Why? So it is to symbolize oppression. Holocaust was like a tragedy in history जिसमें Jews को एक बहुत बड़े एक मिल में, एक बहुत बड़े बिल्डिंग में बंद करके, गैस चैम्बर में बंद करके अंदर गैसेस छोड़ दी गई. यहाँ पे many of thousands of them died. It was done by Hitler, or it is attributed to him. So इसको वो अपनी Lady Lazarus और Daddy और भी कुछ poems में use करती है as a symbol of oppression. So basically she connects it with the symbol of male oppression. In which of the following poems does Sylvia Plath talk about her poetry? So she talks about her poetry in her poem, Stillborn. How many poetry books did Plath published in her lifetime? So it was only one. उसकी जिंदगी में सिर्फ एक book publish हुई. When Sylvia Plath published The Bell Jar in 1963, what name did she publish it under? So it was under Victoria Lucas, यानी एक pseudonym उसने use किया. In the short story Superman and Paula Brown's A New Snowsuit, when the children are at the movies, a war film is shown before the man with the main feature. So what was the main feature called? So this was basically by Sylvia Plath. So main feature of the movie was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. In which of the following poems does Sylvia not mention children? So it is Electra on Azalea Path. बाकी तमाम poems में वो बच्चों को mention करती है. How did Plath eventually commit suicide? Like she got poisoned with carbon monoxide. 1950s में वो किस institute में गई? So it was Smith College. Several of Sylvia poems have a month in their title. Which of these months is never used as a title of any of her poem? So that was February. November, July, October, ये इसकी poems के नाम हैं. There is no poem such as February. Tulip was, and another thing, there are 2 videos by me in my channel. One is about how to pronounce months of the year and how to pronounce days of the week, और उनके साथ उनकी history है, and that is quite wonderful. वो जरूर देखिएगा. So Tulips was written after receiving some flowers during a stay in hospital. Why was she in hospital at the time? So उसने जो Tulip लिखी, ये उसे फूल मिले थे hospital में, ये क्यों थी? It was an appendectomy, appendix का कोई issue था. In the poem Fox, metaphorically, like fox जो metaphorically थॉट के लिए स्टैंड करती है. In the poem, the night is described as starless. कि starless night है. The poet described creative process. So thought fox is about creative process of a person. That was not only fox, that was thought fox basically. Toward the end of the poem, the speaker concentrates on image of the fox eyes. Fox की eyes को as a image use किया जाता है. Poem Thought Fox is written by Ted Hughes, who was husband of Sylvia Plath. In the poem, the thought fox, everything is still and quiet except the sound of the clock. Clock की tick tick की sound आ रही होती है. And he is famous for his animal imagery. Ted Hughes की animal imagery है. He uses animals and gives certain imagery related to them. The blank page in Ted Hughes' poems, The Thought Fox, is printed. So it was basically जो Thought Fox है, that is printed with reference to the blank page in his poetry. The Thought Fox was first published in Ted Hughes' poetry collection, and so that was The Hawk in Rain. इस collection में ये Thought Fox published हुई. The forest in the poem, the Thought Fox symbolizes poet's mind. Thought Fox में जो जंगल है वो शायर के माइंड की अक्कासी कर रहा है, उसे represent कर रहा है. Something else is alive beside the clock's loneliness. So these lines are from September, the important poem. So something else is alive. The poem September shows the relationship of the poet with Sylvia Plath. So Ted Hughes का relationship जो Sylvia Plath के साथ था, that is shown in the poem September. The weather is described in the poem September as midsummer. So midsummer weather दिखाया गया. There is no telling where the time is. So these are also taken from September. No clock now needs. Also taken from September. The poem September, the poet described about the repetition of his kisses. Under the silk of the wrist, a sea. So this is also from the poem September. The theme of September is love, the love of Hughes for Plath. This poem contains 4 stanzas. God tries to teach the word to crow. So this is from Crow's first lesson. तो उसने खुदा ने क्या लफ्ज़ सिखाया crow को? The word was love. The crow is represented as being the first character created by God. So according to this poem, ये पहला character था. When Ted Hughes was appointed as a poet laureate in November, what was the year? So he was appointed poet laureate in 1984. Poet laureate basically होता है जो कि आप सरकारी लेवल पे एक poet नामजद कर दिए जाते हो. Ted Hughes started writing poetry when he was about 15 years old. Ted Hughes' first wife was Sylvia Plath. Which bird does Hughes often use as a symbol of the dark? So he uses the symbol of crow as the symbol of dark. Where in 1965 Hughes met the American poetess Sylvia Plath. So they met in Cambridge University for the first time. In cool small evening, dash to a dog bark and the clank of a full moon and little Frida. So that is a poem by Sylvia Plath. So it was a small evening, shrunken and bucket. Shrunken to a dog bark and clank of a bucket. In the end of the poem, who cries suddenly, moon, moon? So this is also taken from Full Moon and Little Frida, who was a daughter of Sylvia Plath. So it was Frida who shouted, "Moon, moon." The moon has stepped back like an artist, gazing amazed at a work. So fill in the blanks में artist आएगा, again from the same poem. A dark river of blood, many boulders balancing spilled milk. So this is from the same poem again. So these were from the American poetry from Ted Hughes, John Ashbery, and Sylvia Plath.